everybody, what is going on? Nikolai54 here on X and Stock Twits, back with another update. I wanted to give a fresh update on AAGC, All American Gold Corp, because a lot's happened over the last week. So I wanted to just get on here real quick and go through kind of the latest developments. As we've been watching, I've been watching this one, pretty regularly here on what's been going on. So one of the biggest developments that we've been kind of anticipating or waiting on has finally become official as of last week on their X account. The food service acquisition company that management's been talking about is officially complete. So this is important because this isn't a story that appeared overnight, right? We can go back through the company's updates over the last weeks, months, and see the progression. The acquisition negotiations, the shares placed in escrow, all posted on their X account, the letter of intent, the preliminary financial information that they provided, and now, guys, we have the closing. So let's walk through where AAGC stands today and what I'm looking for here next. First, the foundation of the story remains Hollywood Star Cuts. I mean, that is the primary, franchise business that we have in this ticker. The company's been building and operating hair salons and the beauty business around the corporate locations and through the franchise relationships that they have. So recent company disclosures have shown a substantial revenue growth. And for me, that matters in a big way because before we even discuss the new food concept, AAGC has already had an operating business producing millions of dollars in reporting revenue. The next step is going to continue to prove that growth through consistent financial reporting and, most importantly, I think, the audit, right? So the location count's important, but the biggest part of the business that interests me the most is actually the franchise business. The franchise model itself can allow a company to expand in a big way, in a quick way, without having to fund every new location itself. The franchise model, franchisee operators rather, can provide much of the capital and the labor required to open these locations, while the parent company, builds the brand, the systems, support structure, right, for the business. So Hollywood Star Cuts has been using that strategy for expansion, and now management wants to take that experience into a completely different industry. So that's where the latest acquisition becomes extremely interesting to myself. Thinking about this whole business concept, right? So back in April, management announced that AAGC had increased its issued shares while beginning negotiations for what it described as a major acquisition. Management said that 100 million shares would be placed into escrow. It also stated that if the acquisition in fact went through, shares from the buyback could be used and newly issued shares would be returned. Then in May, looking at this, investors learned about this target, right? This new concept, this new business that they were looking at. They kind of gave us some of the details around what that was. AAGC announced a letter of intent to acquire 100% of a casual food service company operating multiple locations in Florida. So according to financial documents supplied to AAGC at the time, the target generated just over $1.1 million in 2025 revenue, with a net margin profit of around 10.5%. So management also laid out a larger goal: stabilize the existing locations and potentially develop as many as 10 franchise locations during the following 12 months. So very, very interesting, right? So now that we have this kind of major development, underway, management says this purchase is now complete. The acquisition itself includes 3 sub shops in Florida. So the stores currently operate under different names, but management says that they will be rebranded under one new concept called Granite State Grinders. Pretty cool, right? Tagline: Wicked Good Subs. So management says that Granite State Grinders will operate independently while following the franchise model established by Hollywood Star Cuts. Another interesting point is that management says that some of the Hollywood Star Cut franchisees have already shown an interest in adopting this new food concept. So that's pretty cool too, right? So think about that. So if this turns into actual franchise agreements, that could be, the first evidence that this model can expand beyond the 3 acquired stores. So very, very exciting. Obviously, this is going to take some time. They just announced this acquisition. So they're going to have to rebrand, go in, redecorate, do all these things that they need to do to get it under the Granite State Grinders corporate umbrella. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. I'm very excited to see what these are all about. So, this is quite honestly, bigger than just the 3 sandwich shops that we just, acquired as a company. The larger strategy, appears to be that these guys have, a multi-brand franchise platform. So AAGC is not just Hollywood Star Cuts any longer. They are looking at scalable opportunities to drive, future business in a big way through another scalable franchise agreement here with potential franchisees, right? I don't think we need to get it twisted here that Hollywood Star Cuts is still the bedrock. And Granite State Grinders has just become basically the second vertical in the company under this ticker. So if management can successfully use the same kind of franchise infrastructure across multiple concepts, the opportunity becomes extremely scalable. So that's where, execution obviously is going to become critical. Investors need to see kind of this rebranding. What are these things going to look like? The actual operating performance of these acquired locations, and eventually the new Granite State Grinder franchise agreements. What is this going to look like? So the existing AAGC business has recently reported an annual revenue base right around $9 million on the latest annual. Right there in the disclosures, guys. Pretty big deal considering where this thing is trading today. So while the new acquisition target previously supplied the financial information that they posted on X showing about 1.1 million in 2025 revenue. So that gives us a rough picture of a business operating AAGC right around $10 million revenue, right? So I want to be clear, I'm not simply just adding up those numbers together and calling that audited, AAGC revenue. We still need to see future financial statements to show exactly how the acquisition is going to contribute to the bottom line here, but the same caution applies to the valuation. Think about this. Revenue multiples on this, aren't even really there yet. We're not even close. They can be useful for scenarios, but profitability, the audit, right? Share structure, the cash flow, franchise execution will ultimately determine what the multiple will be assigned to this ticker as we kind of move forward. With roughly 1.9 billion shares expected, outstanding, every $10 million of market cap is about a half a cent per share roughly, right? So the per share valuation will be extremely sensitive in both execution and what the final share count will be. So 2 things are important from here. So the share structure and the audit. So thinking about management has repeatedly discussed its buyback program. They've been in the markets. We see it on the disclosures. They've been buying back a lot of shares over time. And the acquisition itself was tied to 100 million shares placed in escrow. So now that the transaction has closed, I want to see confirmation of exactly how those shares are handled and what the updated OS on this ticker is going to look like, right? So then there's the audit. So that's the big deal. For me, completing the audit remains one of the most important credibility milestones because it would give investors a very strong basis for evaluating the company's reported revenue, profitability, and basically the overall financial situation of the company, right? I still can't believe we're down here, we're trading and, the trips, but, it's OTC, it is what it is. We look for those diamonds in the rough. We look for those opportunities. We look at the market caps that are out there on undervalued tickers. And in my opinion, I think this is probably one of the best OTC companies trading in the trips, just based on all the reported information that we have. So what's next here? So Granite State Grinders, 3 locations, right? The rebranding, the redecorating, all those things that need to happen, and what's their financial contribution truly going to be, right? It'd be cool to see some sort of a, I don't know, re-grand open or something like that going on. I'm sure we're going to get more information on this. And if I was down in Florida, I'd be definitely a part of that. Hell, who knows? Maybe I'll fly down there for something and eat a grinder, you know, on YouTube or something. I don't know. New Hollywood Star Cuts locations, right? We have some additional locations that have been discussed on X that are going to be coming live. The conversions of some of the other locations that we have, and you know, additional franchise additions along the way. Next up would be whether Granite State Grinders begins signing any kind of additional franchise, you know, operators. So we'll see. Obviously, there's some interest there. We'll see how that kind of looks like. The updated AAGC share structure and treatment of the acquisition and escrow shares. That's I'm going to be definitely keeping an eye out for that. Continued progress towards the completed audit. I can't stress enough how big of a deal that audit is, and they're working diligently on that. I know they had stated that with the audit, they have you know, submitted all the information to the auditors and then eventually to FINRA, then the SEC. Hopefully we get green light on that soon. I'm sure there's going to be some information on that. And then, of course, the next financial disclosure and the first clear look of the combined businesses. That'll be interesting to see that all kind of come to fruition and where we are. And that's basically where AAGC sits today, guys. So we've gone from management talking about the expansion to seeing a significant acquisition actually close. Hollywood Star Cuts continues to develop. AAGC has now added 3 operating food locations. The Granite State Grinders gives the company a second franchise concept, a second scalable concept. And it's very, very exciting to see that. And we did that with shares, guys, that the company bought back. So there's no dilution, there's no convertibles, there's none of that stuff. The debt, there is none, right? It's continuing to maintain a shareholder-friendly environment right now. You know, but now comes the most important part, right? It's all about execution. So thinking about, can they grow these locations? Can they franchise the Granite State Grinders, right? What happens with the share structure? We're going to be seeing that hopefully very soon. Can they complete the audit and provide investors with that strong verification of the financial story here with AAGC? If those things happen and we start to notch those off one by one, I think we're going to be in a lot different story here as we kind of move forward. Those are all the developments that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. I'm a shareholder. Listen, you know, I'm discussing publicly available information. This is my interpretation. This is what I see. I'm trying to use a little bit of logic here and understanding this new startup and kind of where we are, and following the company's progress. This isn't financial advice. Always do your own diligence. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are. You know, like, share the video, and I will see you guys out in the market. Let's see what comes next. Thanks, guys.